Lone setback. Ball at the 1.5 here on first down and goal to go. 10-10 tie. Handoff goes to Pirine. Behind right guard, trying to press forward. A bunch of bodies into the end zone. Touchdown, Kansas City. Samaje Pirine, his first touchdown as a Kansas City Chief, and the Chiefs lead first time in the game at 16-10.
Welcome to NFL Daily, where we know what a Pyrrhic victory means. That's what the Chiefs got on Sunday across the street. It's not even a street, just like a walkway.
It's a way.
At SoFi Stadium, 17-10, the Chiefs get the win over the Chargers. Yeah, we're just jumping right into the first game this week, and that first game was attended by Steve Wyche. Of course, this is NFL Daily. I'm with Patrick Claybon in the Chris Wesleyan podcast studio as well. Patrick will be here the whole show. Nick Shook is coming aboard after this game, but we got boots on the ground at a game. We want to hear from the man that was there. They get the victory, down 10-0, on the road, in the division. Hey, the Chargers got a ton of injuries. The Chiefs got a ton of injuries of their own. They're not going to apologize for anything, Steve, but you just came from next door, and I get the feeling maybe the locker room doesn't have the vibes that you would normally have after a big win like this.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the Chiefs, and that's the locker room I went to, is, they're pretty down because wide receiver Rashee Rice, who has been killing it this year, is their leading wide receiver. The diagnosis is not full yet. He's going to have an MRI on Monday, but it seems like they know that he could be gone for a long time, if not the season. And part of the guy who felt the worst about it is Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, because he threw an interception. On the return, he goes to make the tackle, and it was his friendly fire that hit Rice in the knee that could cost him his number one receiver.
It's such a tough moment as that happened, and I'm thinking, they're going to maybe lose this game. I'm like, this is a tragic play because Mahomes continues his up and down play. I don't think he's been playing as well, even if you take away what's going on around him, which is obviously not helping. He's also just missing some throws, and that was another one of them where it was an interception. He comes in to try to make the tackle on a play that Rashee Rice, forces a fumble.
Yes.
So he was going in to try to make a play. The ball goes out of bounds on the fumble, so the Chargers get the ball. They end up going up to 10-0, but we're reaching a point here where their offensive weapons are now. Kareem Hunt took over as their starting running back.
Played very well.
Okay. Xavier Worthy had a 54-yard big-time play in this game. Travis Kelce goes 7 for 89, but their wide receivers, Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown, they might not see him again this season. Yeah,
get ready for some Juju Smith-Schuster, and they really have to hope that Xavier Worthy grows up. And so far he's shown us no reason why he can't have a Zay Flowers type of effect as a rookie. I mean, he's had a couple games, big plays, big moments, and he's got good hands. He hangs on to the ball.
Every time he has the ball, it looks like he's going to do something awesome. When they throw it to him short, the speed is crazy. The 54-yard touchdown was just like, hey, run fast down the field, and you got it. And they've been wanting those big plays, Patrick. When this score was 10-0 Chargers, like, were you thinking, we made a big mistake with our survivor pick, by the way, which we did survive. We survive as a trio. And, were you surprised the Chiefs come back and get the Chiefs?
No, because Patrick Mahomes adds to this insane record of wins by a quarterback that's trailing by 10 or more points. He comes out to right. He gets another one. But an incredible game by Thule.
He was ridiculous.
Khalil Mack, pass rush for the Chargers was great. But yet again, it's Patrick Mahomes with an opportunity, down receivers, down weapons, comes up, and the Chargers offense just really sputtered. I understand that they're committed to the run, and it's all this mindset stuff, and Justin Herbert's playing on a bum ankle. Herbert did all he could, but just with the options available to them, there just wasn't much there.
He's so tough. I mean, if you can't respect Justin Herbert, you're nuts. I mean, what he showed today, remember, he was out both of his starting tackles, Joe Alt and
Rashawn
Slater were both out. So George Karlaftis and Chris Jones were in his mug all the time. And I don't blame Jim Harbaugh and Gregg Roman for muddying up this game. Remember, it was 10-10 until midway through the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it worked. They were getting nothing going after scoring off those first two giveaways by the Chiefs early in the game, but they were still able defensively to put the pressure on Patrick Mahomes to not let the ball get into the end zone. Part of that was inflicted by the Chiefs with these penalties. And it doesn't sound like last year, Patrick, like all the penalties, all of the things that were we were talking about with the Chiefs, slow start, man, this could be problematic. We're saying the same exact things.
And they're 4-0. They
Yeah,
are 4-0.
they're unbeaten.
They're
Yeah.
2-2. They are now, 2 games up in the division. The rest of the division is 2-2. Spoiler alert for what's coming up. The Chargers had that 2-0 start. They need to be able to run the ball if you're a Chargers team. And I've been disappointed a little bit by the Chiefs' defense this year. And this is a game that their defense needed to step up. And I know the Chargers weren't playing with a full deck. And Herbert took some big hits.
He took some big shots, man.
He took some big hits in this game, and he's not being protected. But ultimately, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards run 20 times for 51 yards.
Yeah.
The Chiefs defense did an awesome job after giving up 10 points in the first quarter. They force 4 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, a missed field goal, which looms large. They get the ball on downs where Jim Harbaugh decides to go for it.
I was stunned by that.
On 4th and goal, on the goal line. Little surprised by that. The first 4th down, actually, Jim Harbaugh's gone for in the entire season, and he goes for it in a tie game. And they called the pass
in a tie game when they have just chewed up about 8 minutes of clock, bridging the third and fourth quarter. They've got, like you said, they were running the ball well, but they didn't have the type of magic momentum where you're like, okay, we're going to push this. Because once things got tight, that's when that Chiefs defense stood up. I'm like, take the points right now because the points are hard to come by. They get stopped. Their defense forces a punt, but then the Chiefs defense forces a 3 and out, and then that's when, Mahomes gets the touchdown drive going with the 29-yard start of the drive to Noah Gray right there.
Yeah, when Noah Gray cut that pass, I was like, "Oh man, Kelsey's got some wheels."
It looked just
and
like
I was like,
Kelsey.
"Oh wait, yeah."
Everybody, even in the press booth, they were like, "Oh, Travis Kelce." I was like, "Wow, Kelsey's got a nice glide."
I was like, suddenly he got way faster. But hey, Travis Kelce did have a nice.
Yeah, he is back in our lives. 7 catches for 89 yards. And again, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. You see 15 out there, he's a threat. But I can't help but think that you want to run the ball, but this isn't that Chiefs team. This isn't the Chiefs team that's running up and down the field scoring all these points.
Good call.
You have to have the explosive plays. There's 7 targets for Ladd McConkey. Really nothing available down the field. A lot of that's the Chiefs defense, but I just wanted to see attempts in that direction, but there was just nothing.
And when, Herbert had a crazy throw that could have been caught by Dobbins up the sideline.
He could have been gone if he would have had.
I think it was one of the curveball. He threw it around Bolton.
That was one of the best throws of the year. Was an incompletion.
We got best throws of the year conversation.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm not putting it as the official nominee this week, but that was pretty awesome. Ladd McConkey goes 5 for 67. So yeah, it's a weird start to the season because all that matters for the Chiefs is January and February. And they're going to get there. They're there at 4-0. And yet we feel worse about January, I think, because of this team, because of injuries. Yet they're finding ways to win. You were there, Steve. Again, I want to take advantage of the fact that you were there. Give me the vibe in the building and also just anything you picked up from talking to the players and everything afterwards.
Yeah, well, first off, let's start with the back stuff I picked up. Patrick Mahomes is frustrated. I think more with himself than anything going. You can just tell, I had a little private conversation with him. It's not like, Patrick Mahomes is one of the most competitive people I've ever been around. And I've covered guys like Michael Jordan, dudes like that. Mahomes is a little sick with, so he holds himself to a high standard. You can tell he's like, I am not doing it. Now, part of it could have been how he was feeling about hitting Rashee Rice. He's like, look, if I didn't throw the interception, we wouldn't be going through that. Mm-hmm. But when your standard is what it is, like they're like, okay, we came in here, did what we were supposed to do, but we had to fight too hard for it against a team that was really, really banged up, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think there's that, which is good. You want really good teams to feel like that. This is not, they don't play to win September. But otherwise, the overall feel of it, Andy Reid and some of the people on the coaching staff, it's kind of like we still have work to do, but one thing that we can rely on, and we know we can rely on, is our defense. And they're going to continue to get better defensively when they get some of these guys back. Mike Dana didn't play today. But they've got such good linebackers and guys up front. Unless they sustain injuries there, that's going to be, as it was last year, their default. When all things don't work, our defense is going to keep us in games.
Default to a defense that, gets 3 quick pressures today by Chris Jones, including, I don't know if they counted as a quick pressure, on that 4th down. He was the guy who ultimately made the play of the game. It won't even show up in the stat sheet, but got the pressure on Herbert. Also had 2 sacks. He's just the best of the best and has a chance.
Karl Aftis is really emerging into a standout player, and Nick Bolton might be one of the best inside linebackers.
So what was it half Chiefs? What was SoFi feeling like today?
Oh, half Chiefs. You know what?
I like the atmosphere when it's half the other team. It actually feels like a Super Bowl, except they're more into it, where it's like super loud on both sides. I actually, as a neutral fan, I think it's one of the cooler atmospheres. But I know, haters from the outside will be like, "Oh, they don't have real fans there."
And I want to make this clear. I want to make this clear because we see this in almost every stadium now. And here's what the deal is: because season tickets are so expensive everywhere in the NFL. Season ticket holders are going to sell off 2 of their games, if not 3, to at least get somewhere to the break-even point. When I see 49ers fans taking over the Superdome in New Orleans, like, that's insane. No one takes over the Superdome. It's starting to happen more and more just because the cost, again, of season tickets are what they are.
I love it. I love that you came over after a big afternoon at SoFi Stadium. So, the Chargers are 2-2. The Chiefs are at 4-0. Thank you, Steve Wyche,
for having me,
for the cameo.
Thanks. I'm going to listen up to hear the Browns venom though. I just cannot wait to next.
Wyche is over there texting me about these bad decisions Deshaun Watson's making and the Browns being a mess. I'm like, Wyche, you got a great game in front of you, but clearly you had it on the monitor, and we will get to that
on NFL Plus.
Yes, with Nick Shook a little later in the show. Nick Shook is going to join us on the other side here, actually, to talk about another undefeated team. A little surprising in the NFC North.
First and goal from the 14. Darnold out of the shotgun, puts Jefferson in motion to the right. He'll go that way to the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Are you kidding me with that catch? Justin Jefferson with a 14-yard touchdown grab. And the Minnesota Vikings lead the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field 27-0 with 5:28 to go in the first half. How about this?
How about it, Paul Allen on KFAN. There with his buddy Pete Bursich. Oh yeah, Sam Darnold hits Justin Jefferson with a pass that was so good, Jefferson had no choice but to catch it. He just turns around and it's in its chest and it just stuck there. The great players, they just have Velcro there. It got a little crazy after that. 28-0 turned into 31-29 by the end of the game. Yes, the Packers did have a chance. Not really late, but there was a one-score game here. Sam Darnold made enough plays to salt it away, have a field goal drive, give them a 2-score lead. They end up winning the game, and man, Nick Shook, I really enjoyed the hell out of this game. I'm glad I assigned it to myself. And at the beginning of it, I was thinking, man, this is not going to be a good one to assign to yourself because it was just like such a blowout. Darnold's first 8 completions were to 8 different receivers. And one thing that stands out to me is when Darnold makes a mistake, you got to take advantage. O.J. McDuffie of the Packers dropped a possible interception on one of the first drives. Then it's suddenly 3rd and 14, and he has a throw to Naylor. And these guys, Naylor and Addison, are getting these one-on-ones. Addison had a few outstanding routes today to get 72 yards and a touchdown for his game, and then it just starts going from there. So, yeah, Darnold will give you some chances, Nick, but Brian Flores is going to give you some extra chances as an offense, and this team is just a lot to deal with right now.
You could be concerned about why things got a little hairy in the second half, but I'm not worried about that because what you really want out of this team is that they continue to play good on both sides of the football, which is what they did. Another good day from Sam Darnold. You know, he had 1 pick, but you still have 3 more touchdowns. Another strong day from Aaron Jones, who clearly loves being there and is not enjoying a renaissance, but having a good year with them. It's just a strong team. Like I picked the Packers in this game because I'm thinking eventually they have to run into something, and this Packers defense could maybe give them fits. Nope, I was wrong. It got close, but I was still wrong. I'm just convinced the Vikings are a sound football team, and they go into Lambeau and get a win today.
There were some signs in the second half because in the first half, there was a wall constructed around Sam Darnold. The Packers pass rush could do absolutely nothing, and Darnold was getting whatever he wants. He could combine that with the offense turning the ball over, giving them a short field. Got a touchdown off of that. Jordan Addison got his second of the day. But in the second half, interception, punt, fumble, field goal, punt, turnover on downs, ball game.
Yes.
There were like some signs of perhaps weakness because Jeff Hafley and company in Green Bay figured things out. Xavier McKinney got his 4th straight interception upon review. Vikings fans pointing out it probably shouldn't have been an interception. Either way it counted. They get that turnover, but there's this is going to be a fun one because these two teams are going to play again. I think the Packers will be healthier. They'll be ready this time. But man, the Vikings are so hot right
Yeah, like so the Packers ended up being without Jair Alexander and then their number 2 cornerback, Carrington Valentine as well. So the Vikings had great matchups on the outside, and they took advantage. Like I said, Addison on some of these backup cornerbacks, man, he is just one of my favorite route runners in the league. He's just shaking guys. And then Naylor only had that one catch, but it was such a massive moment in the game, and Jefferson's presence just helps them get the one-on-ones. And yeah, McKinney picks off Darnold in the second half. I mean, they were going in to put that really out of bounds there. I think it was 28-7 at that point, but that was a great interception. That was a great individual play that maybe shouldn't have been counted. But Darnold has been giving chances to opponents the whole 4 weeks. That's who he's going to be. He held the ball maybe a little too long on his fumble. So he had 2 turnovers in the second half. A blitz gets to him. But ultimately, when they need to make a drive in the fourth quarter, like 17 yards to Justin Jefferson, 27 yards to Justin Jefferson, you get a field goal. You have an extended drive that takes some time off the clock. And on a day where, in the end, Brian Flores' defense gave up 400 yards, the offense had to do a lot. I just think this is a team that's they're gonna go for it. Like Flores is like that too. And the Packers were playing hurry up in the second half. And maybe that's one way to kind of calm down all their blitzes and stuff. I thought the Packers actually had a pretty good plan in the first half. Jordan Love just was missing some throws. And early in the game, I was thinking, man, they should have maybe sat him for another week because he didn't look right. And he even said it after the game. Like the reason that Dontavian Wicks had some drops and he had the interception and everything is like, yeah, he wasn't entirely accurate, but I think he was better by the fourth quarter when he started putting up numbers.
Yeah, probably some rust, and of course, it's not a team where you can figure things out against the Minnesota Vikings because they're just playing such good football right now. There was a tough one where he throws essentially a bad pass to Christian Watson, and we're gonna have to get an update on his ankle because it gets picked off by Grugier Hill as well, who's coming back to the ball, kind of rolls up on top of Christian Watson, but Dontavian Wicks gets 13 targets in replacing him, including a couple of touchdowns.
And dropped at least 3,
yeah.
I would say, and one was on a 4th and long. They went for 2 4th and longs in the game because they were trailing and they were on the plus side of the field. And one was an example of why Jordan Love, to me, didn't look great today. For most of it was just kind of like a hope ball where actually if Jordan Love had done like his thing where he makes an crazy throw over the second level defender, but before the third, he actually could have hit him, but it just, his passes were like fluttering a little bit. And then the second one was a nice throw that pretty much hit Dontavian Wicks in the chest, and he dropped it on a 4th down. And so those were big plays on a day, Nick, where Jordan Love ended up with 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's a stat stuffer right there. That's like, I always talk about him, how he used to lead in PFF scoring in the preseason, if you counted 3 preseasons in a row, turnover-worthy plays and big-time throws. This was that game in a nutshell. But I do think they have to feel better that he kind of warmed up by the end of it, and you hope he's fine, and you really hope Christian Watson's fine because I thought he had a lot of juice this year when he was playing.
That's kind of the story of Jordan Love's experience the first half of last season, too, by the way. Like, kind of, self-destructive plays, the turnover-worthy plays, and then he dialed it in the back half, and obviously we know what happened that season. So I think you kind of expect something like this when he comes back from an MCL sprain, and maybe there's a little bit of a lack of confidence there, maybe the rust like Patrick mentioned. But I think that this is something that shouldn't concern them over the long haul. It's just a matter of reps and time. But I'm more curious as I look at the Vikings and I think about, all right, what defenses are capable of putting Sam Darnold in conflict where he will have ball security issues? Because he's largely avoided it, or he's avoided it in that he's still turned the ball over once or twice in a game, but it hasn't been catastrophic. So if you run down their schedule, you get the Jets next. The Jets, who struggle to get pressure. You get a bye, you get Detroit, the Rams, the Colts, the Jags, the Titans. I don't think until you get to week 12 against the Bears are any of those teams going to set up a serious challenge for him to where they could capitalize and exploit his ball security issues. So we might be talking about the Vikings like this for a long time.
Yeah, that Jets game is fascinating. If they can they're going to try to get to their bye week undefeated. Pretty amazing. And Justin Jefferson, even though the numbers aren't quite as stratospheric as they have been sometimes, I'm just convinced like he's the best player in the league. He's just such a Chico. He goes 6 for 85 and a touchdown. And when they really needed it, he made the plays. Aaron Jones has also been awesome for them. He ends up with 139 yards from scrimmage on 26 touches, 22 on the ground. Let's listen to Aaron Jones just talking about how he came to Minnesota and he's happy he did.
KOC, he's been everything to me. He's helped me so much in my short time here, and I'm glad I made the decision to come here. He's definitely a special coach.
Yeah, KOC, absolutely getting it done. I was kind of thinking during this game, this is like a paths diverging, very early Coach of the Year candidacy game. Just because, I'm just saying, LaFleur has been incredible these first couple of weeks with Malik Willis or something. Yeah. But Kevin O'Connell says, I'm the boss of this race, and right now I'm the boss of this division. They're now up 2 games. They have a game in hand over the Packers. They won in Lambeau. Green Bay at this point is probably going to have to go and win in Minnesota if they want to try to win this division. All right, let's move on to another undefeated team entering Sunday. See if the Steelers stay that way in Indianapolis.
This is it. Fourth down. He's got to go to Pickens up top.
Empty set for Fields. Backs the pass. Plants. Still has time. Rolls up in the pocket. Throws downfield. It's incomplete. Almost picked off by the Colts, but it's an incomplete pass intended downfield for Van Jefferson. And the Colts defense comes up enormous in the fourth quarter with under a minute to go. It's a turnover on downs, and the Colts are going to win in week 4.
Ooh, the Colts defense. I mean, they weren't coming up enormous in the fourth quarter until that moment after Justin Fields leads the Steelers on a comeback that includes 3 straight touchdown drives in the late third quarter and then 2 more in the fourth. The Colts do get that stop, 27-24. They're 2-2. Steelers, their first loss, now at 3-1. Chuck, this is a game where Anthony Richardson leaves with a hip injury, and Joe Flacco comes in, and he's beating teams in the AFC North. It's like 2023 all over again.
I wanted to write the Steelers are probably really tired of seeing this guy until I went back in the history and realized they didn't see him last year. It's just that he saw a bunch of other teams. But yeah, it felt eerily similar. Like, here it is. Joe Flacco coming into a game and dealing and handling another AFC North team, in a matchup where his team didn't expect him to have to play. And suddenly Anthony Richardson gets hurt and he has to play, and he handles it with the composure of a veteran. Now, Greg, I know this irritated you, and we'll just bring it up right now. Anthony Richardson gets hurt, and then he goes to the sideline and he comes back in after like a play, and they run a designed run for him with a hip injury.
Yeah.
So of course that doesn't work out well for him, and he ends up going out the rest of the game. I don't think it sounds super serious. It sounds like he could have played if they really needed him to, but they have Joe Flacco at their disposal. That's why you go get him in the offseason. But it was funny because it was a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde performance from this Colts defense, which has kind of been like that through 4 weeks this season. They start early by just bum rushing the Steelers offense, just attacking that pass protection and getting after Justin Fields, and they build themselves a 17-0 lead. And I'm thinking, are the Steelers ever going to get out of first gear in this game? Because I don't think they are. And then Justin Fields puts the team on his back, and he's throwing darts, and he's using his legs, and he scores a couple of rushing touchdowns. And I'm like, the Steelers are, if they have enough time, they're going to come back and win this game. And then it all fell apart down the stretch because they couldn't protect, and they had a weird snap that resulted in a fumble. And you just heard the last player. If you watched on YouTube, you saw it. So weird back and forth game, but also a fitting first loss for the Steelers in the fact that their strength did not help them today. Their defense was not their calling card today. And that was the problem.
Fields being able to keep them in a game where their defense is not playing well overall. This is a real thing. Patrick, 55 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns, 312 yards through the air. And a touchdown. They're like, it's happening.
No, it's real. And it's not just that touchdown flurry at the end of the game, which might jump out to people. Pittsburgh wins this game, if not for a random George Pickens does this thing where he holds the ball way away from his body. He had one in the first half. Fields hit him on a ball down the sideline. He was inside the 5-yard line. And for some reason, George Pickens is flailing the ball around, has the ball punched out, and the Colts recover. Because other than that play and just a dominant performance, I say it's dominant. The numbers don't leap off at you, but against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, this performance by this Colts offensive line, Like it really showed just how solid and strong they are up front. Jonathan Taylor goes for 88 yards at 4.2 yards per carry. Flacco comes in, right, where it's not. I feel like because we saw it last year with Cleveland, we kind of take it for granted that Joe Flacco just shows up and plays good football. And it seems there's other backup quarterbacks. The game's over in that situation.
He's 39 years old.
I love it. It's that tweet. It's like the aging wonder, which is, the guy that you're older than.
Well, I was saying that's extremely old.
It's a miracle. How's he even breathing?
Speaking of which, Joe Flacco spoke with our friend Aditi Kinkhabwala on CBS after the game.
I do have to tell you, Anthony Richardson told us that you were cooler than he thought he was.
Listen, he told me his mom is 8 days older than I am. So there's no chance in the world that he thinks I'm cool. So
Joe Flacco is cool.
He's cool. He's cool now. We get like the amenable dad Flacco after these last couple of years where we've come a long way from it's not my job to coach the backup to like this fatherly Joe Flacco who's hugs and smiles and talking about people's moms.
And he was injured for a couple of years and he's bouncing around and struggling, and I think there is something to that. Maybe he appreciated what he had in life. You're not going to have it forever playing this game, and he kind of came back with a different attitude to his younger quarterback teammates that he's not threatened by anymore. And how did he look, Shook? Because I'm going to watch this game more closely later. But Josh Downs goes 8 for 82 and a touchdown. That's a really good sign for them, for him to get back going. And Pittman goes for 113. They bogged down a little in the second half. But how do you think Flacco looked? I don't think he's going to play next week, though, based on Richardson after the game. We don't know. But he put his shoulder pads on, even though the team had ruled him out. I think they were just being cautious at that point, but it seems like he could be back. But how do you think Flacco looked?
Yeah, so Downs had a hell of a day, and a lot of that was because of Joe Flacco. And I mean, he made a few catches where he broke a tackle and picked up a key first down here and there, especially in the second half. And the run game really helped balance it out. Patrick's completely right. This offensive line is very good, and you could see it as they're handing it off to Jonathan Taylor. But none of this gets done without Flacco coming in and handling the job well. He looked a lot like he did last year. He didn't throw for the yardage total that he did in some of those games with the Browns, but at the same time, he looked just as confident and accurate and showed off all the arm talent that he had last year and he's had for most of his career. Like it was nothing. He had a nice touchdown pass through coverage that I was just like, wow, there it is. There's the arm right there. And then the best part was as he celebrated last year with the Browns and was, I feel like I'm a kid again. He had the same expression on his face today, and it almost looked like I could just throw him in a different uniform. It's the same thing from last year. Run down the field with his arms out, having the time of his life. So there's a lot of bad backup quarterback situations in the NFL. It does not exist in Indianapolis. After doing it with Gardner Minshew last year, they're a step above that with Joe Flacco and what Shane Steichen's doing there. Their offense looked different, by the way, as naturally it would. You're not going to run with him, but overall, he stepped right in and didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, I think Steichen saw that Steelers defense, which is great, but not complicated. You kind of know what you're going to get from them, and they were able to out-execute him for a while in this game. Now, the Colts' last touchdown, which was Flacco to Ogletree, came after a controversial penalty by Minkah Fitzpatrick. It was an unnecessary roughness. Let's listen to Minkah.
I mean, I thought we were playing football. I don't know what we're playing at this point. Very different game than what I grew up playing and what I grew up loving. Can't hit nobody hard. Can't be violent. So I don't know what to say anymore.
Can't be violent, Minkah Fitzpatrick says. That was courtesy of Chris Adamski of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. It's kind of interesting to me, and you can tell me if you thought it was a good call or a bad call, Shook, but I thought it was interesting that Minkah could have been called for a penalty, I thought, on the play that injured Anthony Richardson. It was kind of a late hit. I mean, it was one of those old Cam Newton plays where he doesn't get the call because it didn't look crazy, but he slid, and if that was like Bryce Young and then you hit him after sliding, the quarterback would have gone spinning because it was Richardson, not so much, but he didn't get the call there. He did get the call later in the game. Do you think it was the right call when they did make it?
Bang, bang, yes. On replay, no. Because as soon as it happened, it was one of those ooh hits, and you're like, oh, he was defenseless. That's probably going to draw a flag, and it did. And it made sense. And then he looked at the replay, and he didn't go for the head. It was basically shoulder to shoulder. The head was nearby, but it didn't really qualify. And I think they said that on the broadcast too. So it's a bummer, but football is played at an incredibly fast speed, especially when you're at field level, and it's hard to make those judgment calls. But again, I will say this. I know it bought them, another opportunity to go down and score a touchdown, but football usually decided by like 5 or 7 key plays. That could be one of them, but also you buried yourself in a 17-0 hole. That didn't lose you the game as much as the entire game did.
Well, and you also, when they got the ball back and your offense was cooking at that point with a couple minutes left, just earlier than the 2-minute warning, you have the ball at the 38-yard line, or rather the 42-yard line with a 1st and 10 with 1:43 to go. That's a lifetime, only down 3. And an early shotgun snap hits Justin Fields like in the face or so, and that puts them behind the sticks. They miss a throw that down the field, and they pick up, the 11 yards on like a 3rd and 22, and that led to that final
and
play.
Najee Harris doesn't get out of bounds, so the clock
Right.
keeps running. And it basically, ruined their chances.
So, they played outstanding on offense until that drive. Dayo Odingbo got 7 pressures for the Colts, who got a lot of pressures without blitzing in this game. So if you can do that, you can win a lot of games. Let's move on. Now we're out of the undefeated area, but we're still with a very compelling game, a surprising one in a rainy New Jersey.
Lutz missed from 50. Zerline from 50 to give the Jets the lead. 51 seconds to go. Out of the hold of Morstead. The snap, the placement down. The kick is on the way. It's got plenty of distance, and it is no good. It floated right. Heartbreak for the Jets as Zerline had it curve off to the right, and he can't hit from 50. And it looks like the Broncos will hold on and win this game by a point. Both kickers in tough conditions can't convert.
They could not. Greg the leg misses. That was WAXQ. Bob was choosing a surprising 10-9 loss by the New York Jets before they get on a flight later this week for London. Broncos at 2-2. Jets now at 2-2. Fascinating game here, Patrick, but I keep going back to the fact that the Jets had 2 opportunities in the last couple of minutes to win this game, and the 3 plays that preceded that 50-yard missed field goal were ultimately failures too. The Jets not being able to advance the ball and get the ball closer in tough conditions for their kicker, and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense come up short.
Yeah, and a tremendous performance by this Broncos defense in what you called a compelling game. It was not pretty. It was certainly not a fun game.
But it was weird.
Watch.
To me, I was kind of fascinated by it because it just looks so weird. Like, wow, what the heck is going on here?
Well, what we saw was just a good pressure defense. Rodgers was running. We saw Rodgers run against the Patriots, scramble for some first downs. He was getting away, getting out, but it was not the same. The first loss for Aaron Rodgers in his career where he didn't score a touchdown at home. Like, that's how good Vance Joseph's defense was today. And we've come a long way from Greg the leg from 57 in the Superdome to send the Rams to the Super Bowl. That 50-yarder sprays to the right. But this is a game where Bo Nix in the first half was 7 of 15 for 7 yards passing. For negative 7 yards passing, excuse me. That was the important part. Negative 7 yards through the air. They had 1 point.
Wait, what?
Yeah, in the first half.
How deep into it?
In the first half. His first half stat line, 7 of 15 for negative 7 yards.
That's amazing.
It was a struggle on offense, but in the second half, really that defense, because Rodgers had a strip sack in that fourth quarter, I think 6 minutes to go. Next drive, it did absolutely nothing. They kept coming up short, miscommunications between he and Garrett Wilson. But it's tough to pin this all on the Jets offense because Patrick Surtain, yet again, played a spectacular football game. There was one particular play where Garrett Wilson's coming in motion, and it's very tough for the opposing corner to come all the way, tracking a guy on motion, navigating all that traffic, and then getting to him on the screen. And he did just that for like a 2-yard gain. Just a great defensive performance. We can discuss the Jets being on fraud watch, but that's back-to-back weeks where the Broncos are on the road and their defense just stifles a quarterback who the week before was red hot.
Oh, that's a great point. And so Surtain, I don't think even faced the target in the first half. He ends up facing 3 targets in coverage against Garrett Wilson in the second half. 2 catches for 22 yards, 25 routes. You're just not seeing guys shut down opposing number ones like that. Then again, this Broncos defense was great overall. They blitzed 49% of the time, so they should keep their lead. They are the heaviest blitz team in the NFL, and opposing offenses aren't really dealing with it well. Rodgers' time to throw was 2.5, which is actually quite low. Then again, he held on to the ball on a lot of those and got sacked. 5 sacks, 14 quarterback hits. It's one thing I've noticed this season. He's taken a lot of hits almost every week. Titans hit him a lot. Patriots actually did hit him a decent amount. 8 tackles for loss in this game. Meanwhile, the Jets get like no pressure on the other side. I've been really impressed with this Broncos defense, Shook. And I guess we got to start taking them somewhat seriously, even if Bo Nix's 60 passing yards is the least in a quarterback win since Eli Manning did it back in 2007. Somehow not surprising to me that Eli Manning was the one that did it. Maybe also in MetLife.
What you're saying is Bo Nix is 2 Super Bowl rings away from making the Hall of Fame.
We'll see. Eli's, by the way, is up for debate this year, and I don't think he's going to be first ballot. I think we can at least.
No, but he'll get in. He'll get in eventually. No, it is crazy. It's crazy to see a team win a game with 60 passing yards, like from a quarterback. It is nuts. But on the flip side, like I think about the Jets' offensive approach because it's just been so up and down through 4 weeks. Like they were stifled by the Niners in week 1. They get back on track. They end up, looking like gangbusters, like world beaters in week 3 against the Patriots. And then they come back to earth with this. And we talk about the Broncos defense and how good it is, but if you look at them statistically, they were 22nd in the league against the run. Like that should be their weakness. That should be where you attack them. And it's raining at MetLife Stadium. Why are you throwing the football 42 times in a game that finished 10-9? I need to know that. Why is your run pass difference? It's 67.1% pass to run. Like that's a failure on the part of the coaching staff in coaching within the game, in my opinion, and putting it all on the shoulders of Rodgers. And you just don't help your offense out that way. So I think that's something that the Jets have to iron out.
Well, don't forget it was the Nate Hackett revenge game. Supposedly Aaron Rodgers was going to try extra hard, Patrick.
The extra hard didn't really pan out. They gave Breece Hall 10 carries. He got 4 yards out of it. Really, Braylon Allen was the guy that was having success.
I keep banging this drum. Breece Hall had a 0% success rate today. Braylon Allen, 75%. His runs were successful. To me, their running game just looks a little more in sync when he runs it. Breece Hall sometimes is looking for the big play. And, you can't get too mad at the play caller with the Jets because Rodgers ultimately is the play caller. He has a lot of options at the line of scrimmage to choose, okay, depending on the look. And most of the time, you're going to trust him to make that right decision. Today, he leaned towards the pass, and you could see how disappointing it was. At the end of the game, he just puts a towel over his head. And I saw someone write, it was like, okay, you're now officially a member of the Jets. I'm not going to go that dark. I'm not sure about Fraud Watch. We'll see. It's a big game in Minnesota. They'll have to figure out how to protect Rodgers against the blitz. But Rodgers was very disappointed after the game.
We were kind of killing ourselves. I can't say I had a spectacular game. I missed some throws. The weather sucked, but so did some of my throws. So, we had some chances. But way too many mental mistakes. But when your defense holds them to 10, you gotta win the game 100% of the time. So that's on the offense. It's on me. Not good enough.
Yeah, it was not good enough. Jonathan Franklin Myers with a little revenge game. Quiet little trade that the Broncos made on draft day. The kind of money related, I believe, because they were expecting Hassan Reddick to come on the books.
How'd that work out?
They kind of could use Jonathan Franklin Myers right about now. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with maybe my favorite game of the day.
Oh!
After this.
So now it comes down to Younghoe Koo to try and win the game for Atlanta. A 58-yard try to win the game with 7 seconds left. Snap spot. Kick from Koo is away, and it is good! 58, and the money shot for Younghoe Koo.
That is a great call by Wes Durham on WZGC. It's time for the Sunday Drive presented by the all-new hybrid Toyota Camry. And yeah, we had to save it for what I thought might have been the game of the day, the rivalry of the league. This Falcons Saints game had everything that you would have wanted. Plays that both teams would have regretted if they lost. Both teams kind of finding different ways to let the other team in, but a lot of fun. The Falcons win without an offensive touchdown. They win with a deflected pick six and a fumbled punt that they recover in the end zone on a day they were mostly outplayed. They also won on a penalty by Paulson Adebo, who sets up that long Koo field goal, and the Falcons couldn't get any closer. And yeah, Younghoe Koo, maybe he was listening on the Manning cast like me in week 2, and he heard Bill Belichick talk about him, and he said, oh yeah, we had Koo in our building for a little bit, which I forgot about for a minute. He's like, he's very accurate, but not really good from distance. Doesn't have much distance.
Take that, Bill.
And it's like, have you seen how much that dude's been in the weight room? I was next to him on the field in London one year. That dude is thick. He's strong, and yeah, he hits it from 58, and what a missed opportunity, Patrick, for the Saints in this one.
Yeah, just to the giveaways, you mentioned the Judon tip pass that was pick sixth. Rashid Shaheed, for some reason, getting turned around. Maybe it's the fact that he spun to try to catch the punt, but he was inside the 3 when he tried to field a punt, and he muffed it.
Just let it go.
Ultimately, the defense played well. They lost Tyrann Mathieu at I think in the middle of the second half. Having to play without him, a man down. Paulson Adebo on that pass interference call, the ball was underthrown. He could have turned around and got a chance to make a play, but he went ahead and grabbed the receiver because I guess he thought that was in the situation. And after that, so the Falcons have a first down already inside Younghoe Koo's extensive range, much to the chagrin of Bill Belichick. And they get nothing. There's 3 straight plays where for some reason Kirk Cousins is taking deep shots inside the 20-yard line. They go 0 for 3 on those attempts and get nothing for Younghoe Koo, who bails out his team with the 58-yard kick where people, you're not watching the game, you're thinking, oh, they get down there on the PI call at the last second. No, they had time, and they did not make it any easier for Koo, much like the Saints team just made it easy for the Falcons to win. With all these mistakes.
Yeah, sometimes I think Cousins is like a robot and he just does what he's programmed to do. And like I think that's just where the progression took him, because they probably were trying to take away the sideline routes. They had no timeout at the time. So it would have been interesting too if he had hit that last one to Mooney, because they snapped that ball with 13 seconds and it was a downfield throw. If he had caught that around the 20 inbounds, like that would have been they might have lost the game right there. Mooney though runs great routes and he figured out a way. He's kind of been Kirk Cousins' guy. What a weird spot though. I want to get on Dennis Allen just a little bit for going for the touchback at the end. Have you noticed this, Nick? I've kind of been tracking late game situations, not much time left, and these coaches who they go for the touchback in that scenario, which gives the other team the ball at the 30 and takes no time off the clock. And it just seems like coaching scared. Like, hey, we don't feel like we can coach this well enough. The average return right now is actually, when it's being returned, is only going to like the 25 or 26. Yep. So more times than not, you're actually doing well. The Texans, who we'll talk about later, in a similar situation, kicked it, and they got the benefit of a penalty on the Jaguars, and the ball ended up being like at the 10-yard line. So I've seen that a bunch of times. It's not just Dennis Allen, but it puts it at the 30, where you only need, like in this case, like 25 yards, and suddenly you're kicking a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, I wonder if coaches are so afraid of the dynamic kickoff that they'd rather just give up the extra 5 yards in the time. Like, it doesn't really make sense, because that's what I was.
I mean, I get it. They are, yeah. But that's stupid.
The average is usually like the 26.
They talk about competing all week. Why don't we compete? Play a little football.
Yeah, exactly. Put your money where your mouth is, Dennis Allen and every other coach. How about coaches that need to bleed clock and throw the ball on second down when they just need to drain clock? You're going to drive me. I'm going to go on a whole soapbox here. Let's not go there. Okay. This is going to, I think, sit back for the Saints, and they're going to be a few weeks ahead and be like, man, game we should have won. Like, it's hard to win games in this league. It's really hard to win games in this league that you think you should win, and then you give them opportunities to take it from you. Like, 58 yards is no joke, but Younghoe Koo just bangs it through. This is a game that you should be able to feel confident that, hey, we've played well enough. We've outplayed them. We deserve this win. Let's close it. And they didn't close it. And coach is coaching scared.
So they scored 3 offensive touchdowns, and the Falcons didn't score any, and they lost. I can't imagine that's happened many times. It's very similar to the stat about the Commanders and the Giants. In week 2. The difference in this case is the Falcons did get a couple touchdowns. They were just from a pick 6, which was, Derek Carr said after the game, I did hold it too long, and that's probably true. He shouldn't have tried to jam it in there, but also, we can just be real when luck is a massive, massive part of the game. It bounces up in such a way and is caught on the pick 6, and it was kind of bad luck.
Yeah, you could try.
I thought Derek Carr played pretty well in this game, actually. There was a couple moments when they were driving, but for the most part, I thought he played well. What were you going to say?
Yeah, no, the connection with Olave, you can see that start to get better as the season goes on. But you could go out back and get your friend to stand about 5 yards away from you and throw the ball at their elbow and try to get it to ricochet into the air, like happened where the ball comes off of Derek Carr's hand, goes to Matt Judon's bottom elbow, and somehow goes up into the air 20 yards and is a pick 6.
I think both of these teams have to be concerned about their pass rushes. Both quarterbacks, I thought, had too much time in this game. Cousins had a lot of time early in this game. The Saints pass rush really wasn't getting there. Cousins still is not moving well. When he is given time, he spins it. He actually had a handful of really nice throws in this game. But again, if you look at his numbers on play action or outside the pocket or under center, it's very minimal, and it's negligible production when he's doing it. I think he was 4 for 6 for under 30 yards on play action. And so he's just very limited in what he can do. Like I said, though, when the given time, he spun it a handful of times in this game.
Yeah, that kills me though, because again, coach to your strengths, coach to the strength.
Yeah,
of
but
your
he can't
quarterback.
move.
I know
he can't move.
I know.
Yeah.
That really pains me. And then you're gonna ask him to hold the ball longer too. I mean, 25 attempts over 2.5 seconds. That's Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
That's when it worked.
And Kirk Cousins is not Jalen Hurts.
Okay, he was 3 for 6 on play action for 28 yards, 2 for 3 outside the tackle box. And yeah, I mentioned Carr had an up and down game. They got the ball. It's Saints Falcons. They had just failed on a 4th down inside the Atlanta Falcons 10-yard line with about 4 minutes to go. And you thought, ooh, that might have been their last chance. I like that Dennis Allen went for it there. I want to give him some credit, actually, because they could have tried to cut the lead to 3, got the ball back, and stopped him. Instead, he went for the touchdown, and they sent some blitzes after Carr. He might have been a little panicked and got rid of the ball too quickly, and that was probably his worst moments in what was otherwise a good game. But then he gets the ball back. Saints force a really ugly 3-and-out by the Falcons. They get the ball back on the Atlanta 42, and despite some boneheaded penalties and by his teammates, Rashid Shaheed, and the offensive line makes a mistake, Carr has a nice drive down to the goal line, and what I thought was going to be one of the touchdown calls of the day, Alvin Kamara, who had just a heroic game despite a broken ribs, gives them a go-ahead touchdown.
2 tight ends, I formation. Morrow, handoff Alvin Kamara. He gets pushed into the end zone by Adam Prentice. Alvin Kamara, touchdown, New Orleans.
That tied the game with the extra point to follow with a minute left. That was Mike Haas and WWL. And just as a fan of Alvin Kamara, 77 yards on the ground with that touchdown, 7 catches for 42 yards in the air, playing with a broken rib. Derek Carr said after the game, he reminds me so much of Marshawn Lynch. Who people might forget was with Derek Carr in Oakland at one point, and just says those two guys love football maybe more than anyone I've ever known. Taysom Hill, I also think loves football a lot, was massive in this game. I think was going to have a big workload. Had 6 carries early with 2 touchdowns, playing with a bruised lung. Another guy that loves football, and then he suffers a rib injury on the other side of his body, according to Dennis Allen, and was knocked out of the game. So they didn't even want to use Kamara that much. Olave was going in and out with a hamstring injury. It was a lot. It was Falcons Saints. It always delivers. That was the Sunday Drive presented by the all-new hybrid Toyota Camry. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. All right, that's enough of these close, really entertaining games. Let's go to a really entertaining blowout in Arizona.
3rd and goal from the 10. 8:40 to go, fourth quarter. Here's the snap. Arizona breaks 4. Plenty of time for Jaden. Throws over to the middle, into the end zone. That is caught! Touchdown! Touchdown, Washington! Terry McLaurin, back-to-back weeks for a score in the 4th.
I love hearing the glee every week from Bram Weinstein of WBIG. You can just tell this guy's having the time of his life, as are all Commanders, employees, and fans, of which I guess he's one. He's an employee. Jaden Daniels goes 26 for 30, 233 yards through the air with a touchdown and a pick. Also runs for 47 yards on the ground. The Washington Commanders are 3-1, and they lay the smackdown on the Cardinals 42-14.
On the road, where the defense hasn't really performed recently, they had to have a win in a score fest where they scored every time against the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought it was going to be up and down the field, and to start things off, it was. The Cardinals go right down. Kyler has a touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison Jr. right after Jaden leads things off with a touchdown run, but eventually the defense gets pressure on Kyler. Kyler is 16 of 22. A lot of those incompletions came on 3rd down, where Arizona was ultimately 4 of 11 on the day. But it's tough to not watch this game and come away with, oh my God, Jaden Daniels is legit. For the second week, only 4 incompletions, including an interception. Second game in a row where Jaden has had this random miss where the ball doesn't go anywhere near where he wants to go. It's actually behind the defender as well. He kind of makes a great one-handed grab. Other than that, pretty much a perfect game, where also Brian Robinson Jr. goes over 100 yards on 21 carries. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry in this game. And Cliff Kingsbury comes back. Afterwards, Dan Quinn, laying just a litany of F-bombs in the locker room, says that Cliff Kingsbury is not leaving this blanking city without a blanking game ball, and tosses it to Cliff, and they're going crazy. Everything's coming up Commanders right now, Shook. It's their world. They're leading the NFC East.
This is also a Cliff Kingsbury revenge game, by the way. I think that's a side note. Never in a world that I think that we would be praising so much Cliff Kingsbury so much, just because of the way that his tenure went with Arizona. But here we are. And you know what? Let's take a moment here on a very happy day, somber moment. Let's pour one out, metaphorically. The possession streak ends at 16.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It finally ended. They finally didn't score on a possession, but that's how good they've been. They've been dominant. They've been pumping the ball in the end zone. Jaden Daniels, his completion percentage was 86.7%. That's after he set the rookie record last week in that win over the Bengals. You can't stop these guys. They're a machine. No Austin Eckler because he's in concussion protocol. No problem. Jeremy McNichols, come on down. 8 carries, 68 yards, 2 touchdowns. Throw anybody in there. This offense is a well-oiled machine. All we need to do is put warm bodies in there. We're going to blow you out of your own stadium.
Yeah, the success rate for Brian Robinson, Jeremy McNichols, and Jaden Daniels, all of them were individually over 50%, which is like a huge number when you're running the ball. So it just shows it doesn't matter who it is. Yes, Daniels is obviously special and chooses well when to run. I think he's gotten a little more careful over the last couple of weeks, which is a great sign. But the offensive line, that's the one thing I think Kingsbury deserves the most credit for. Really, the thing that he did well in Arizona, I thought, was coach up and have a good offensive line, despite, that you looked at the talent and you weren't really sure, and they've been very good. And it's not just a throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage thing, Patrick. Jaden Daniels was 5 for 5 under pressure today. So when they got some heat, which wasn't too often, 5 passes under pressure is not a lot. He was complete, and 7 for 9 on throws between 10 and 19 yards. So he's been pretty good on the mid-range. The deep balls haven't really happened except for the 2 famous plays now from that Monday night game. But it's amazing. This team could I don't know what this team could do. They could win the division. Why not?
And honestly, because defenders are scared to get too far upfield. You have to be honest about your rush lanes because you don't know when Jaden's going to pull down. He's making the decisions very, very well. Coming into this game, it was 2.51 second snap to throw. Where we just talked about Rodgers getting rid of the ball in that range in a slugfest where they couldn't move the ball at all. That's how quickly Jaden's been getting. It seems like perhaps the Giants in that field goal festival a few weeks ago had the best game plan with Jaden Daniels in
I mean, they didn't stop him though. I mean, right?
They were able to get stops.
20.
Yeah, they were able to get
Inside the
stops
20
inside the
did.
20.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they were just like when they were blowing open holes in the red zone. It was just they were easy. The Cardinals defense played a little closer to where I thought the Cardinals defense would play in the first 3 weeks of the season. And then the Cardinals offense was disappointing. You watched it closer than me, Patrick, but Kyler took 4 sacks. He looked a little frazzled at times, I thought. Like his eyes were down where he looked a little confused. So I don't know if that was something Dan Quinn was sending him. Dorrance Armstrong had a good game, but for the Commanders team that was 32nd out of 32 in a lot of categories, this was, obviously a great performance by them. After, a quick start by the Cardinals offense, they get the first drive touchdown, not much the rest of the day.
Well, the one thing that has been consistent with the Commanders secondary is when the opposing quarterbacks have taken the shots, they haven't always been able to make plays on the ball. And Kyler just, I'm not sure how things were, he was seeing them, but he just wasn't taking those one-on-one opportunities when they were available early. But Emmanuel Forbes, who's gotten a lot of negativity from the way that his career started, made several plays in this game. St. Juste as well, these guys, the Commanders at corner have really, really struggled. And we'll see the next time that they get a chance to make plays on these 50-50 balls. But today, Kyler just didn't really want to pull the trigger on them.
They're in the mix, Washington. I mean, they are leading the NFC East, and at this point, you have an offense that good, you have to think they got a real chance. Our friend Nate Tice, who's helping us out at the NFL Network here, saw him on Good Morning Football, tweeted out something that the Washington Commanders, through 4 weeks of the season, I believe are in the top 10 all-time in success rate. So that in terms of just like, do you have a good play on a down-to-down basis? They are ranking through 4 weeks with the best 4-week starts of any offense in history. Yes. They are getting it done. Let's move on to Tampa, where another offense got it done.
Need a yard and a half. Mayfield, shotgun look, has the keeps the ball himself, dives. He's got a Tampa Bay touchdown. Mayfield with a designed quarterback keeper.
Gene Deckerhoff from WFUS. Yeah, that was Baker Mayfield's rushing touchdown to give them a big lead in this game. They held on for a 33-16 win, and this was way easier than anyone would have thought. I mean, just even them winning was a surprise to me. I picked the Eagles. I feel like an idiot. You picked the Eagles, Patrick.
I sure did.
Then again, we didn't totally know the injury report at that time. Lane Johnson did not play. Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown did not play, despite A.J. Brown returning to practice on Friday. So that was unfortunate. And yet, you can maybe put it more on the Eagles' defense, which is healthy. The first quarter, 21-0 lead, 189 yards to 0 yards. That's a tough way to start a game.
Yeah, it was honestly, because to see the struggles that Jalen Hurts was having, again, no Devonta Smith, no A.J. Brown. He was holding on to the ball a very long time. Got a sack from Vita Vea, holding on to the ball as well. 2 strip sacks in those situations. But over on the other side, because we saw Vic Fangio's defense absolutely shut the Saints down in the Superdome less than a week ago. And then to come out and see Baker Mayfield, which Tom Brady on the call, he was freed from his curse of the Cowboys scourge early on in the season. He's watching his former teammates go up and down the field, just heaping praise on Chris Godwin. But you could see what a healthy Chris Godwin does to this offense. He got nine targets, caught 6 of them for 69 yards, crucial third down conversions as well. It was just Baker operating at a level against this Eagles defense where they didn't necessarily know what was going on. Quinyon Mitchell made one play on Mike Evans to knock away a touchdown. I can't really think of another play that the Eagles defender made in the first few drives of this game. Baker 347 and 2 touchdowns, and I don't even know what to say about the Eagles at this point, Nick. It's a rough situation.
It's not pretty. I mean, you go back to some of the markers in the next gen categories for Jalen Hurts, and it's kind of telling. Again, 16 attempts over 2.5 seconds. Doesn't have his top 2 receivers out there. Nobody's getting open. He's holding onto the football. They've looked like this for most of the season. He did have 14 under 2.5 seconds, but still half of it being longer. That worries me. And they didn't protect him well. He was sacked 6 times. That speaks to the fact that he's holding on to the ball too long. You go in there shorthanded against a team that is aggressive. Todd Bowles' defense is aggressive and is going to get after you. And you find yourself in a 21-0 hole after going 3 and out on each of your first 3 possessions. You're fighting an uphill battle that you're probably not going to win, especially when a guy like Baker Mayfield is balling, which he did to start the season, and now he's right back on track after a rough week last week.
He's all or nothing. This guy's crazy because he had one of the worst games of his career when I rewatched that one last week. I thought it was kind of on him last week. He was the problem, and then he comes out today, and that touchdown he had to Trey Palmer was like that was perfect coverage. I can't remember who was in coverage. Was it Slay?
Yeah, it was. I think it was Darius Slay.
And the safety was coming over the top. There was no window there, and he just fires it in there. And that's just like, well, that's too good. There's nothing that you can even do with that. Mike Evans becomes the all-time leading Bucs scorer with a touchdown earlier than that, and the Bucs get the ball going on the ground for the first time all years. Both Wyche and Irving go 10 for 49. That's like the nicest running back split I've ever seen.
Let's unpack that real quick, because that's all the talk in Tampa right now is give Bucky Irving more carries than Rachaad White. He's playing better. His success rate's higher. Everything else. They like mirrored each other. The only difference was Bucky got the touchdown. So what do you do now?
It's fine. You need them both.
Yeah, it's the way Bucky is going to pop on some plays, and you can see the explosiveness. He's a different style runner, and when it works, and the faster guy gets more yards in the fan brain, it's like, okay, yeah, this is the guy, because we feel like we have a chance where they hadn't really been running the ball very well. They didn't really run the ball a lot today, even in a game where they led wire to wire. But it's just one of those. It's one of those things where they're both going to be a part of this offense. But I do think we will see more and more Bucky Irving as the season goes on.
Let's listen to Dallas Goedert talking about Nick Sirianni's message after the game.
You know, he said it's early. We're 2-2. He talked about that. You know, it's not college football. You know, our season's not over. We got a lot of football ahead of us, and we just got to find ways to stay ahead of the sticks, move the ball, and come back. We got a lot of football left.
Something about that bothers me. That why is Nick Sirianni telling the coaches this is not college football? The season's not over. It's like, if the pros in that locker room are not thinking the season's over, like it just gives you a window. It's like, hey guys, don't think the season's over. The season is not over, guys. No matter what they're saying, and I just
maybe it's a little personal projection regarding who finishes the season.
I do worry about that, because last week they just won the game, and every press conference was included some version of the question from reporters, like, and what is it you do here, actually, Nick? Because like it was talking about how he jumped in and messed things up with the 4th down call last week, and then they asked Jalen Hurts a question and asked like how if they're going to get together and they're going into their bye week at 2-2, if they would get together and maybe decide how you want the message to be the team or how you want to handle things between him and Nick as you go into the second part of the year. And Jalen Hurts' answer was, we have our moments. That's just it.
This is carryover from last year. That's what this is. This is the pressure of last year already weighing them down 1 month into the season.
I think that, I mean, it's just, they always give him, and they know what they're doing. They always give him a chance to say something nice about Nick Sirianni, and then he never says it. No. Hurts had to have been frustrated. He was pressured on 48% of his dropbacks, 4 of 11 under pressure. Great job by the Bucs. Look, the Bucs have had 2 games where they looked outstanding this year. Week 1 against the Commanders, and this week they stole one in Detroit in a game they probably should have won. And that's why those steals are so big, because now they're sitting there at 3-1. Eagles are 2-2, but it's going to feel worse than that during their bye week. All right, before we head to break, want to let you know and just send all of our thoughts to everyone that is in Tampa or anywhere in the Gulf Coast region and struggling with the after effects of Hurricane Helene. As we hear more about it, it's really devastating, and families affected by Hurricane Helene urgently need support. You can help the American Red Cross provide meals and shelter to these families. Donate today to Hurricane Helene relief efforts by going to redcross.org/NFL.
3rd down and 3. The Bengals at their own 38. Joe looking, has lots of time. His pass caught at the 50 by Jamar Chase.
Nice.
Breaks the tackle, streaking down the far sideline. He's got two teammates to block, and he will take it to the house for a 63-yard Bengals touchdown.
Nice. Unbelievable.
Great job there by Dan Horde and Dave Lappin. I believe what Dave Lappin said during that highlight was, nice, nice, see ya, nice. Just fantastic. Jamar Chase takes a house call on a play that probably should have been about a 6-yard gain, helps his buddy Joe Burrow out on a day where, they got it going on offense. 34-24. The Bengals get the win in a Andy Dalton revenge game that was not, although I don't think he was the problem. The Bengals defense made just enough plays. They got a goal line stand early, and they got a pick, and that was about it, with the offense is doing well the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's the story of the Bengals so far. Good to finally get off the Schneid and get a win. First off, congratulations to the Bengals. I thought they set the tone with that goal line stand early in this game. They arrived in Charlotte on a mission, and that was don't go 0-4 and don't lose to Andy Dalton. And they did that, so good for them. This is a team that's going to be carried by its offense. It's going to be carried by Joe Burrow, who made one mistake all day, which was the interception. Otherwise, he was excellent again. And luckily, they got enough out of their ground game. That was probably their best game on the ground this season, just visually speaking. 30 attempts between Chase Brown and Zach Moss for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. That kind of set the tone for their offense, and Joe was allowed to build out of that. Of course, he has that hookup with Jamar Chase, the human pinball on that 63-yard touchdown reception, which moved him into a tie with Odell Beckham Jr. for the most 60-plus yard receiving touchdowns in the Super Bowl era with 9. Can you believe that? 9. So they're humming offensively. Defensively leaves a lot to be desired. Trey Hendrickson left this game with an injury in the fourth quarter that we need to keep track of, because that's their only source of pass rush. That's where I'm concerned. But again, good for them to get that win on the road.
Yeah, and a concerning area as well, because Trey Hendrickson dips down, his helmet runs into another player. It leaves the game there. But the positive side on the Bengals offense, which were a whole bunch of positives, just 5 pressures on 32 dropbacks against the Panthers, albeit it's against the Carolina Panthers, but this is the new look Carolina Panthers. Andy Dalton's starting now.
And he's not playing defense.
For some reason, the defense got better.
Yeah.
but ultimately, Chase Brown leads the team in rushing. Didn't play most of the game. I think he played less than 42% of the snaps. Also got a goal line carry as well, which was a little bit of an upset because
15 for 80 with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was.
And he was sitting out there in my kids' fantasy league. I'm trying not to tell them what to do too much. I'm like, how's Chase Brown on your waiver wire?
At that point, you gotta pull rank. Go ahead and snag.
I give suggestions. Yeah. Sorry.
Greg leads in his own way.
Both teams really didn't have any pressure, so it's a little concerning, I think, for both of these teams. 2 quarterback hits, 0 sacks. Now both quarterbacks are getting the ball out. I always check after these games, are the Bengals ever gonna run more of a offense that Zach Taylor, was used to running, like the one that he ran when Joe Burrow was hurt last year, and try to get Joe Burrow to do a little more play action, a little more under center stuff. And the answer is usually we tried a little and it never works. He was 4 for 6 for 18 yards with play action. They're trying to push Joe Burrow to not just be but that's just not what he's good at. He's good at sitting in shotgun and just kind of playing distributor and getting the ball out quick.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out for him. Right. My concerns are not with their offense. My concerns are entirely with their defense. On the flip side, the Panthers. Let's talk about Andy Dalton, who looked good again. That interception that he threw was not his fault. It was a deflected. His arm was hit when he threw it. Otherwise, he looked pretty good again. They had a shot to win this game. They were down a touchdown late. They had the ball, and they came up short. They didn't really mount much of a comeback effort on that drive. But the fact that they were in the game alone just shows how far they've come in 2 weeks from Bryce Young, and this is the least talented team in football, and Bryce Young limits this offense to Andy Dalton can go out there and throw for 220 and keep this offense going, and Chuba Hubbard went for over 100 yards today, which was great to see. They have life offensively. It's just that in this game, much like the Bengals lost to the Commanders last week, they didn't have quite enough offense to keep up. What really happened is they went down 21-14 with a well-timed little dump off to Brown along the sideline for a touchdown. It was 21-14 and a half. Bengals come out, go right down the field and score, and they're up 2 touchdowns, and the Panthers are trying to play catch up. If they weren't in that situation, probably would have been tight all the way to the final snap of the game.
Yeah, the Bengals get a little more production out of T. Higgins with 6 catches. Things are moving in the right direction. We'll see when the defense plays better offenses coming up. But look, they caught up a game in the AFC North. This was a must-win game, they said afterwards. You just can't go to 0-4. They're going to try to be crawling out of this hole probably for the whole season, maybe for just the first half of the season. But they caught up a game in the AFC North. The Panthers fall to 1-3. They're already a couple games back. So dreams of suddenly being relevant, maybe taking a little break here. Let's go to 2 teams who are definitely entering Sunday in Vegas, worried about falling into irrelevance.
They got to get right. They're not right. They're not right. Their coverage is, well, now they're better. They bring Cooper to the left. There's the snap. Watson pumps. He's under pressure. He's rolling out to the left. Raiders giving chase.
Ball's out. Ball's out.
Sack. It's Charles Snowden with the sack and the biggest play of the day. Charles Snowden off the edge. Back-to-back plays. And the Raiders defense with 34 seconds left might have just won this game against Cleveland.
There's no might have. After a couple kneels, the Raiders get the win at home, 20-17. They are 2-2. The Browns at 1-3 and not feeling good about life. Yes, Deshaun Watson got them within striking distance, inside the 10 there, late, holds onto the ball, looks like a disguised coverage confused him, Nick. His read that he expected to be open, I think, was Cooper, and I think he thought it was man coverage, and ends up he's double covered. He holds on to it too long, doesn't get rid of the ball, and, man, they lose. Sad times in Cleveland.
Yeah, sad times. And the funny thing is most of this season has been defined for the Browns, not to focus on the losers first, but most of it has been focused on the fact that Deshaun Watson has not played well. He actually played pretty well today. He put them in multiple spots where they could score points or at least get closer to scoring points. It was everybody around him failing. It was the penalties committed. He stepped up in the pocket and found Amari Cooper wide open for an 82-yard touchdown that would have flipped the game and gave them the lead. Gets called back by a holding on Nick Harris, who came in for the injured Ethan Posick at center. There's another play earlier in the game where he throws a pass over the middle to Amari Cooper. Perfect ball. Hits him right in the chest, pops right up in the air for an interception. It was that type of day for the Browns and a gritty win for the Raiders, playing without Max Crosby, playing without Devontae Adams, and getting as creative as you'll probably see outside of Matt LaFleur's approach with Malik Willis a couple weeks ago with the ground game. They had like 7 different guys carry the ball. 2 receivers scored rushing touchdowns in this game. Their lead running back was Alexander Madison with 5 for 60. They rushed as a team for 152 yards. The first time their rushing game has shown any life this season. So it was one of those team victories that didn't look pretty, but they needed it, and they needed to be gritty without Adams and Crosby, and they got the job done. But to circle back on that play one more time.
Okay.
Watson's got 2. He's got 2 guys open.
Yeah.
He's got 2 guys open, and he's about to fire. And I think he sees somebody slide back in coverage, and that's when he pulls it down. And by then, the pass rush was in his face. Good day for him otherwise. Tough ending for the Browns. The Browns are a bad team. They are a bad football team with a quarterback who can't be trusted. Simple as that.
Yeah, on that play, you're right. Guys were open, and that's ultimately on the quarterback to figure out what the defense is doing and stay calm under pressure. Look, they had 1st and 10 at the Vegas 16 with 2 minutes to go, so they had all sorts of time. Then like a bungled snap and an incomplete, just a lot of sloppiness. Watson had 1 interception in this game that was just a drop, right, by Amari Cooper, and it could have been a big play, and it turned into an interception. And to your point on the Raiders running game, I did have to Google who is D. Turner for the Raiders. DJ Turner.
Yeah.
1 carry, 18 yards, touchdown.
Yeah, it's one of those wide receiver carries. The other one went to Trey Tucker, come all the way around on the end zone. A play that started with a handoff to Zamir White, which 17 plays ultimately handed off to Zamir White. And he got 50 yards. He was 2.9 yards per carry. Alexander Madison has outgained Zamir White in every game they played this season. And at a certain point, I know AP wants to get this ground game figured out with Zamir White, but this seems like Alexander Madison's backfield. He had 5 carries for 60 yards today. Looked explosive.
Did he have the conversion on the 3rd and 9? That was where I was like, man, the Browns are not the Browns, because it was a 3rd and 9 run.
Yeah.
And they picked it up.
Yeah,
they don't tackle well. They lead the league in the most missed tackles, and it was Madison on that run, a hard fought run, but another poor display of tackling.
And again, this was a game that we weren't necessarily thinking this was going to be a score fest coming in. Two very, very hurt teams, two offenses that are playing poorly, but there were so many chances. There were so many chances for Cleveland, and they didn't take advantage of almost any of them. And the plays that they did make, the holding call being the key one. And I understand the fourth down play, pressure comes, you have to throw the ball somewhere
Right.
On that. But again, it shouldn't have been to that point. Right. It shouldn't have even come into that circumstance, because in the second half, the Browns defense eventually did get things figured out.
Yeah, they got the pick. I mean, they got that JOK forces a fumble that they return for a touchdown. And I was just about to say, look, the Browns defense, it's still a good defense, but you just couldn't expect them to be as dominant as they were a year ago consistently. It's just not going to happen. Then again, in this game, they did score 7 points to mitigate whatever, mistakes they made against a team without Devontae Adams. They're missing both their tackles. You mentioned the center got hurt. There are extenuating circumstances, Nick, for sure, but they're not overcoming them. And in this one, give credit to the Raiders, who are. I mean, Isaiah Polamalu is out there. Not Polamalu. Polamalu is out there and making pass breakups at safety and getting a sack on a blitz. And they're having guys step up and get enough. Like, Caleb Chason showed up and had 3 pressures in this game. I'm like, oh, wow, Caleb Chason, it's happening finally after 5 years. So it's probably not really. It's against some backup tackles. But it was a big day for Antonio Pierce, who had a tough week.
Yeah.
And for the Raiders to get this win, to get to 2-2.
Yeah, that safety Polamalu that you talked about, he made a fantastic breakup on a perfect pass from Deshaun Watson to Jerry Jeudy that would have been a huge gain, and he arrives at the perfect time. They're playing. I mean, that defense has been good all year, and even without Crosby, they still play good football. The Browns, bad vibes. Like, the bad vibes group in the NFL right now, there are 2 teams in there: the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
I think some Eagles fans will probably
not yet, almost, but not yet.
They're pretty bad. Yeah, pretty bad vibes.
But yeah, the play that Nick was talking about with Polamalu, his helmet or shoulder pads are inches different, and that's a flag and a fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he really got his helmet and shoulder pads in the perfect place to break. Jeudy was asking for a flag, but he couldn't. He doesn't have the benefit of seeing the play from the outside, where it was perfect timing and perfect placement.
And it was a great throw. It was also 3rd and 3 in the fourth quarter. And Watson goes for a shot. And it's not like he was like wide open. It was like there was a safety, obviously there was a safety back there, and he didn't beat coverage that much. So it's like the decisions with Watson, not the best. You say the vibes aren't good in Cleveland. I mean, if you listen to Boston Talk Radio on Monday, I doubt the vibes are going to be great there either. Let's go to Santa Clara.
They had 3 left, and Hunter Henry, the former Charger tight end right, was set back. Steps up. Here comes Floyd. Throw over the middle. Intercepted by Fred Warner. Fred gets up and runs back the other way. 30, 20, 1 block, and he's in. 10, 5, pushed out, dives for the end zone. Touchdown! San Francisco!
Pick City, baby!
One of my favorite plays of the year, a Fred Warner pick 6. This guy is your best defensive player in the league through 4 weeks. Greg Papa, Tim Ryan on KNBR. You just love it when potential Hall of Fame type players are at their very peak, and you can just count on tuning in every week. They're going to do something special. That looked like a glitch in a video game in Tecmo Bowl, where the guy would just fly right off the top of the screen, and Fred Warner I didn't even see him. Jacoby Brissett definitely didn't see him. He flies to the top, gets up off the ground, and gets a touchdown. Unfortunately, Warner left the game later with an ankle injury, was not able to return, was standing on the sideline, hopefully not too serious. And I just thought, watching this game and seeing the individual plays by the 49ers and enjoying hearing Greg Papa's voice so much, like, this game had 2 highlights, 2 touchdowns that were maybe better than any 2 touchdowns I saw all day. So let's hear another one.
3rd and 10 on the 12-yard line, 10th play of the drive. They've had 2 touchdowns called back by penalty. Brock shotgun, Wyche to his right, the lone back. Ayuk tight right, and they go Kittle, Jennings, Debo from inside to out left. Brock back and a throw for the end zone for Kittle. Lob ball. Jones went up and caught the ball. Touchdown! San Francisco!
Kittle in the corner, baby. Superman in the phone booth. He went up, and there are players draped all over him.
3 Patriots defenders there to try to stop George Kittle. You can't stop him. What a play. It turns out that you're better when you have Deebo Samuel on the field and George Kittle on the field. And, yeah, they were back to being the 49ers. They ran away and hid very early in this game.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel had a 53-yarder from Brock Purdy. Just those – because you wonder, like, what happens when you don't have those guys? It's not necessarily always the continued offensive excellence. Sometimes it really is just 4 or 5 plays. And those 4 or 5 plays, when they're big plays like that, Kittle over 3 guys, Debo for 53, it pops over the course of the game. And, yeah, the scary thing for San Francisco as they get all those guys back is Fred's going to get an MRI tomorrow. And you don't really get in that machine for fun. So that's concerning, but it's, I mean, when they're healthy, I mean, they're the 49ers. I'm glad to see them back to being the 49ers again, albeit against this Patriots team, which made plays in spots, and they actually made it a game towards the middle of the fourth quarter, but just not enough at the end.
Yeah, it was 20-10 at one point in the third quarter. Joey Sly hits a 62-yard bomb at the end of the first half. I mean, that was their highlight, but at that point it was 20-0, and there were, as the announcer there mentioned, it's like there were like touchdowns called back by penalties multiple times for the 49ers, and they just like score anyways. Couple fumble situations which, worked out in San Francisco's favor. The Patriots offensive line is just so bad, and then they lose David Andrews, who's their best player, their center, early in this game. Caden Wallace, who's their 3rd string left tackle, got hurt and left the game, and it's just insane. Brissett faced a 54% pressure rate, 10 QB hits, 6 sacks. I'm amazed that he's been able to keep getting up because he's taking hard hits. The difference in this game, Shook, on one level is actually Purdy was under a lot of pressure in this game. Keon White had a good game, and their offensive line wasn't amazing. And Purdy is outstanding at escaping pressure in a way that Jacoby is not going to be. Never was, but definitely not at this stage of his career.
No, yeah, and I feel like this game essentially like delivered what we expected from both teams. Speaking of strengths and weaknesses, because like Jacoby's been under attack like this every week, and he's taken a ton of hits, like you said, to the point where there's been many times where I've been like, "Oh, is that the one that knocks him out?" And he just keeps getting back up and getting back out there and continues playing. I mean, it answers every question as to why people are like, "Why aren't they playing Drake May?" Because they can't protect well enough, and there's no reason to put him back there. But on the flip side, you also get the 123-yard rushing day from Jordan Mason, and everything that you see from the 49ers, highlights wise, and George Kittle being the most joyful guy other than Bob Papa in the entire Levi's Stadium as soon as he makes that catch. Like, this very much tracks with what we expected. And unfortunately, because of who the Patriots are, and it starts again in the trenches, as I'll always say, this is going to be how a lot of their season goes, and you're just going to have to, accept it and hope for the best.
It's tough. They're probably the worst team in the NFL. The 49ers had 6 plays over 20 yards. Ayuk had a big chunk early, but then again seemed a little off on a couple plays, almost caused an interception with Purdy. Juwan Jennings made a ridiculous catch for 45 yards in tight coverage over Jonathan Jones. That was like a beautiful ball by Purdy. So was the ball to Samuel. I've really been impressed with how Purdy's playing this year. He had an outstanding throw early in this game across his body on the 3rd and 9 to keep a drive going. That was just not an ordinary play. And then those nice deep balls. He missed a couple deep, but he kept trying for him in it. And they're hitting these post shots, which is, you don't see him going for those bombs all the time. And he's a good deep ball thrower. They do not miss Christian McCaffrey that much because their running game is so effective. I know they miss him, Patrick, but Jordan Mason had 160 yards in this game. They are statistically one of the most effective running games. I just mean, like, the running game is pretty low on their list of concerns. Anything offensively is pretty low on their list of concerns.
Yeah, that particular aspect of when the
He's
ball,
a really good player too.
Yeah, Jordan Mason is a solid running back. It's not to take away from Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason can contribute on a lot of teams. I do think in the passing game, not having Christian McCaffrey is a significant loss because it just forces you to have to defend so many aspects of the field and contend with Debo and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. It allows everybody to kind of be at their best, which is why they traded for him in the first place. But regardless, New England didn't have the horses on either side to really be in this game, and San Francisco kind of able to zombie.
Don't get too confident, San Francisco. The Jets also had a game like this and, came back to earth quickly because they might think like, oh, we got our defensive line problems solved. Like Kevin Givens had 2.5 sacks in this game. Actually, he's played well all year. Malik Collins had 5 pressures, a lot of them quick. Nick Bosa was involved in back-to-back sack plays in the third when it looked close for a brief second. But yeah, this Patriots line and everything about their offense just undermanned right now. They go to 1-3, and the 49ers get a much needed win to get to 2-2. We're going to take a quick break here. We're actually going to say goodbye to Patrick Claybon and thank him for his service on this program. We're going to say so long to Nick Shook for just a little bit. He'll be back with me on Sunday Night Football, and I'm just going to chop it up with one of my favorite dudes, Kevin Patra.
Coming at you.
Just a couple games, Bears-Rams, Jags-Texans, both good games, the Patra games this week. See you, Patrick. Thanks.
See you, guys.
Motion to the tight end, Parkinson. Snap, stun up front, pressure coming, Stafford hit, ball intercepted, Brisker the grab at the 18-yard line. The pressure flattens Stafford, and Brisker with his almost second swipe of the day. The first one in the end zone did not count. This one counts very much, and we got a fade to black moment at Soldier Field.
That's right. Jeff Joniak there on WMVP. Matthew Stafford. Look, he battled. That's what Matthew Stafford does, but throws a late interception under pressure while getting smacked. I thought for a second maybe did they get him around the head? No.
Oh, they definitely did.
Okay, they definitely did. But the call did not happen. And yes, that is Kevin Patra. The Bears win 24-18. Rams fall to 1-3, and the Bears get a big win to even their record at 2-2. So you think they missed that call, Patra?
I do. I do think he got hit in the chops, but to me this game was all about what the Rams didn't do and how the Rams that was the interception to seal it, but Stafford's fumble in deep in his own end early in the game was what really catapulted the Bears. Then there was a penalty on the Rams that gave them a first down and first and goal at the 1, and they plunged it in. But before that, it was like the Rams were marching up and down the field and stalling, as they are wont to do without their top guns. And then the Bears couldn't do anything on offense at all. It was 1 first down and then a 3 and out, and then a couple first downs. And Caleb Williams did not play well in the first half. And the ground game in Chicago, again, as we'd seen all year. I mean, they have 97 yards in the first half and I think 6 first downs. So it wasn't pretty early, but that turnover deep in his own end zone gave the Bears life.
So yeah, you're talking about the turnover that sets up a very brief drive by the Bears for the Roschon Johnson touchdown run, gives them a 7-6 lead. Ends up with a 10-6 halftime lead in a half that it felt like the Rams were kind of controlling. But you got to give the Bears defense credit here. Just coming into the game, I thought, okay, the Stafford and this story that they had a week ago, which was great, is going to be challenged more today by the Bears. So it didn't surprise me that they finished with 18 points in this game, or that they struggled in the red zone. What did the Bears defense do well?
Well, they got pressure. I mean, and as they usually do. And Brisker was all over the field. As in that call, he should have had another interception earlier in the game in the red zone, actually in the end zone, but he just stepped out by a toe. It was a very lackadaisical pass by Stafford. I couldn't believe he unleashed it. But Brisker was all over the field, 12 tackles, a couple tackles for loss, the game-closing interception. He was everywhere. And Sweat had the game-changing fumble, in my opinion, earlier. He's the one who caused that Stafford fumble. So he had that. And the Rams, we know they're shorthanded. Kyron Williams did his thing, but when you don't have Kupp and you don't have Puka Nacua to take away some of the coverages, the Bears could just sit on the run game, and they just kind of stuffed them. There was just no, like, the Rams offense was just waves up and down all game. All game. You didn't know what you were going to get one drive to the next.
Well, they changed up their wide receiver rotation. Jordan Whittington takes over as like the guy who's running the most routes, gets 6 for 62. Finally makes me feel like it was worth going to a Rams preseason game for the first time ever.
I thought of you almost every time.
Right, because he was awesome in the preseason. I actually do think he can replicate what Puka and Cooper Kupp does more than anyone else, just because of his style of play. He's physical. He's obviously not going to be as good as them.
He played well today, and he was their leading receiver for most of the game until Tutu had a couple big catches later. But he was clearly the guy that Stafford was comfortable with throwing the ball to over the middle.
Yeah, and Tutu has been great for them too. Gets 4 catches for 82 yards. Yeah, the Caleb side of things and the Bears offense, look, they get the job done. DeAndre Swift busts open a big run late in this game. Hell, let's listen to this touchdown run by Jeff Joniak here with the call.
One back set. Snap. Dancing inside. Over a man. Swift for the burst to the 25-20. He's going, baby. 10-5. End zone. Touchdown. Bears. 36-yard jaunt by DeAndre Swift.
Needed that. This team is not going to get anywhere without a running game. Swift goes 16 for 93, helped out by that, but they were better in the second half. They kind of took Khalil Herbert out of the rotation. They'll need that because Caleb Williams is certainly still struggling to throw deeper throws. He was 15 for 15 on throws under 10 yards, Kevin Patra. So that's good.
Yeah.
But 2 for 7 over 10 yards, 0 for 4 over 20. His 3 wide receivers combine. The 3 big ones, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze, combined for 51 yards on 7 catches. So not a lot on the outside here.
No, and you can tell he kind of still doesn't trust his offensive line, I think, because it's either he gets it out quick or he just seems that the gears start to turn and he just like kind of is overthinking it. Where you'd like to see a little bit more progression from him, and he flashes it every once in a while, but it really is, if his first read isn't there, he's overthinking it, and I think he's just waiting on pressure. He did that a lot in the first half. Like he was just like, okay, pressure should be here by now because this is what the offensive line that I have in front of me. Going back to Swift, I think from what we saw last year, and that he was a bunch of memes about him on Twitter last week after the Colts game, but he was much more decisive this week, and I think that's what he needs to be. He's one of those guys who kind of gets in his own head when he's got 2 lanes to pick, and he just needs to hit the hole and go, and he was much better with that today, and I think that's why you saw an improved run game.
Love it. Love Kevin Patra with the coaching tips for DeAndre Swift. And yeah, this Rams defense, you get a sack by Braden Fisk, and they're just not special enough. They ran the ball fairly well, but this is going to be a very challenging season. Puka Nacua is reportedly going to be out till about week 9, according to Fox's Jay Glazer. So we'll see when Cooper Kupp returns. He is not on injured reserve. All right, let's go to Houston, where we thought it'd be a one-sided game. Instead, Patrick got another good one.
2nd and goal. Diggs to the right side.
You gotta have
British
that
Brooks
unit ready.
Offset ICJ rolls out to the right, throws to the end zone. Hits Dory! And the Texans score! They lead! CJ Stroud to Dory Ogunbowale, who's had a huge game, puts the Texans on top.
Oh, they didn't tell you that it was going to be the Dare Ogunbowale revenge game, did they? Big game-winning touchdown, 4 catches for Ogunbowale for 47 yards. And for the second time this season, the Texans needed a touchdown late. Happened against the Colts, got it. Happened against the Jaguars, got it. Or else this team could be looking at a totally different season, but they get the win. 3-1 on the year. The Jaguars fall to 0-4, Kevin. And it was on a day where seemed like they gave the Texans everything they could have wanted. They had a second half lead, but couldn't close the deal.
Yeah, the Jags played better than they have, but they still left the door open. And this was a Nico Collins game all day. Every time a big third down happened, Nico Collins. Big second and long because the Texans couldn't stop committing penalties on especially the offensive line. Like Laramie Tunsil is just a penalty machine right now. It's kind of ridiculous. But they were in like 2nd and 15 all game. And it would just be Stroud drops back, hits Nico over the middle, and then they move the chains. But I mean, this game started pretty hot for Houston, and then they scored 3 of their first 4 possessions, and then it was just the second half, just punt. And I'm actually surprised that the Jags defense stood up they didn't have Devin Lloyd, Aluakon's on IR, so their run defense was pretty impressive. I mean, Akers had a few decent ones, but I mean, they couldn't run the ball very well consistently, I should say. There just a lot of third and long situations for CJ Stroud to manage his way through. And they did it when it counted. And that's the kind of mettle that you have when you have a Stroud type of player. It kind of felt to me like that once they got the ball back with so much time, because we can get into the Jags and how they kind of imploded at the end, but they got the ball back with all day to just drive down and do whatever they wanted and milk the clock inside the 5-yard line before they scored.
Right. I mean, on one hand, I have a lot of faith in CJ Stroud to do that. On the other hand, they had just gone 5 straight punts. Right. So the Jaguars offense had every chance to put this game away earlier. And I know they were outgained in this game, but I couldn't help but see that, look, they had the better rushing game today. Tank Big goes 7 for 90, including a 58-yarder. ETN has a 50-yarder. Even Brian Thomas has a 13-yard run. So he's supported there. The defense is getting a lot of stops, and you need Trevor Lawrence to kind of step up a little more than he did. He had a negative 7.5% completion percentage over expected. Again, he's been at the very bottom of the league so far this season, and that matches the eye test. What did you see from Lawrence today?
He just continues to be scattershot, especially most concerning is the short throws and the over the middle throws that should be easy for him. He should be completing. And in a Doug Peterson offense, those should be the easy throws that you can convert. And they called 2 pass plays on their final drive when they could have just milked the clock, because like you mentioned, the run game was working in the second half. That's what got them into the lead. And so they, instead of just leaning on that, at least on second down and getting into a manageable third down, they threw it twice. And then CJ Stroud had 3.5 minutes to work his way down the field, where, I mean, just given how Trevor Lawrence has played, I was kind of surprised they put the ball in his hands in those spots, and he missed. He missed twice. Like it wasn't like some great defensive play. He put up the ball behind Kirk on the third down play. He had him. He's just missed. Like I made a joke the other day. It's like he kind of reminds me of my toddler son when he first started peeing, like standing up. Like just the toilet's right there. Just hit it. Hit the bowl.
I mean, like it's like
these
a lot of the
throws.
It's like a lot of the guys here at NFL Media. I don't know what's going on, but you go to the urinal and there's just like there's always some liquid on the ground. I'm just like, is this that challenging? Someone had to put a sign up at one point last year. I don't know if you remember that, Eric. Like someone put a sign up being like, whoever keeps missing, like let's get it under.
Some choice words on that sign too.
Yeah,
we'll keep it PG
get it
here.
under control. That is Trevor Lawrence right now, and it's interesting. Just keep that evaluation from Patra in mind when you listen to Doug Peterson after the game being asked about possibly taking over play calling duties.
For what? I thought he called a great game. We as coaches, we can't go out there and make the plays, right? It's a two-way street. So, you guys can sit here and point the finger all you want, and that's fine. Point it right at me. I can take it. Okay? I can take it. So, whatever you want to ask me, say, whatever, write, go ahead.
This is really tough, and they're going to be going to London soon, and when you hear that's a tough one, because that's gonna be shown in the headlines of like, hey, the players, I mean, he's not wrong. Like that, it's probably not all about the play calling. But it's hard not to connect the dots between what's going on with his quarterback and just what the team is, and it's not about the play calling.
It's been 4 weeks of this. It's been 4 weeks of Trevor missing in big spots over and over again. They've had chances to win games. And Brian Thomas was great again today.
6 for 86 and a touchdown. Yeah.
He deserves more targets. Honestly, he should have had more targets than Christian Kirk, to be honest about that. But he was great. But Trevor just misses the layups. He just has to make layups. They're not asking him to do a whole lot. They don't push the ball down the field a ton. So he just has to hit the ones that are there. 54% completion rate from a guy that came into the league as a number 1 overall pick is just highly disappointing.
Yeah, the yards per attempt down too. And I just wanted to circle back quickly that Nico Collins' final stat line is 12 for 151 and a touchdown on 15 targets. And I was having this conversation. I wish I had it off air. It's like, we don't have to wait to be like, hey, Nico Collins is one of the 5 best receivers in the league. It's obvious. He does literally everything. When you draw up what an X receiver is, like you kind of think of, Mike Evans, maybe even a younger Mike Evans. Like that's what you would want, who can literally do everything after the catch, at the catch point, can run routes, is physical, red zone, short, long, everything. That is Nico Collins. He is the guy by himself on one side with the receivers on the other side. No Tank Dell, no problem. Stephon Diggs is a very nice second receiver. He goes 5 for 69 and runs in for a touchdown. But this guy is freaking awesome. Kevin, you are awesome as well.
Wait,
appreciate
you.
Can
I just throw a stat on that doubles down on what you were saying real quick before we go? So he totaled 115 of his 151 from Next Gen Stats were on targets of over 10 yards. So he's not doing these bubble screens and little dink dunk and getting hollow yards. He's doing work. He's
great hands, and you can connect those great hands to at least 2 of their victories, if not all 3, where he was the difference in the game. Awesome stuff from him and Stroud. Stroud ends up with 345 and a touchdown, and they are leading the AFC South at 3-1. Kevin Patra always leads the way when he is on the show. Looking forward to having you on again. We will wrap up the show with the little Sunday Night Football to Baltimore.
Now Lamar starts in the pistol formation with Derrick Henry behind him. Jackson stands 5 yards deep. He'll give it to Henry. Right side, big hole. Henry across the 20.
Oh, he's gone.
30, leg race 40. The Kings in midfield and rolling 40. 30. He could. 20, 10, 5. He will go all the way. Touchdown Ravens. And this house is going wild right out of the gates. 87-yard touchdown. Listen to this.
WBAL Jerry Sandusky on the call, and that was Rod Woodson saying, he gone. Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 199 yards on the ground. 2 touchdowns on the day, including 1 receiving. They left him in the game at the end to try to get over 200. John Harbaugh loves stuff like that. He just couldn't get it. Everything else went right for the Ravens on a night where they win 35-10, humbling the Buffalo Bills, who are at 3-1. Ravens dig out of their 0-2 hole. They are 2-2 on the season. Lamar adds 54 on the ground with a touchdown, was very efficient passing the ball. Nick shook. Justice Hill gets 78 yards receiving. When they brought Derrick Henry to Baltimore, the last 2 weeks are exactly what they imagined. Nick shook. This Baltimore Ravens offense and their ground game they're just scary right now.
Gee, what a surprise. The last 2 games they've won. I mean, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen in the offseason, and it took a couple weeks, but they finally figured it out, and they look like a machine. And I made the joke last week that I know Greg Roman was coaching for the Chargers because I saw him on TV, but I thought that he was coaching the Ravens again because they're just a dominant ground team again. They were good last year on the ground. They are way better on the ground this time around when they get Derrick Henry out loose and in the open field. He doesn't even have to be in the open field. He can run guys over. It doesn't matter. But that mixed with Lamar, Justice Hill, his little scat back, change of pace, catch some passes. It's a tough offense to stop. And I know it's only week 4, but people are probably looking at the Ravens right now and thinking, God, how are we going to defend that, especially late in the year?
Yeah, the trademark of Ravens teams, which I really respect their organization more than any other, is throughout the course of the season, they continue to add elements. They figure out what they can do, what they can't do. Their offensive line has had some issues the last couple of weeks really to start the season. They're missing one of their starting guards tonight. They have Rosengarten out there at right tackle. They moved the right tackle to guard. You have Patrick Ricard out there, and they figured out, okay, what works, what doesn't. They've really almost created two different rushing attacks. You have the shotgun rushing attack, which has Justice Hill more than not, and he had a couple effective, one effective run tonight, but ends up getting a lot of big gains as a receiver. They really had a touchdown drive, their third touchdown drive, which was keyed by multiple Justice Hill catches, a 15-yarder on 3rd and 14, a 19-yard touchdown catch. But otherwise, you got Derrick Henry back there, and it's mostly running out of the pistol and out of under center, and the pistol formation is where they got the touchdown out of. And Jordan Rodriguez, she talked about it on our podcast. A lot more offenses are going to be using the pistol because it's more flexible of how you want to run out of it. And Henry hit that big touchdown out of the pistol, but also had many more successful runs out of the pistol formation tonight. He was over 50% success rate, so it wasn't all just about boom or bust with one big run. He had a lot of good chunk runs. They're figuring out the under center stuff. Like, that's been okay. Sometimes it hasn't otherwise. We know what Lamar Jackson can do, which is not even require his wide receivers in a game where they absolutely dominate offensively. They had that long throw to Likely, and he's a tight end, of course. And like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman almost got a touchdown. Like, they're barely involved. Bateman has 1 catch, Aguilar 2 for 10, Flowers 1 for 10, and yet it was one of the most efficient offensive games of the year. You really felt like the Bills defense, which had been playing well, missed Milano and Teron Johnson and Terrell Bernard, and that's 3 of their best players, and they should have 2 of them back pretty soon. Milano won't be back anytime soon, so that's good news for them. But man, this Ravens offense, okay, now they've added elements. They figured out how they're going to marry the Derrick Henry running game with the rest of their offense where Lamar likes to throw.
Yeah, and the personnel losses that the Bills are dealing with are exactly why it was so hard to defend them, because you're going to see other offenses run more of the pistol, which warms my heart as somebody who can think back to the days of the Nevada Wolfpack and Colin Kaepernick and the pistol offense in college football. Now that it's prevalent in the NFL, but this is going to be the team that does it the best because of who they have back there, because they have Henry as a hammer who's also liable to break off a big play at any moment, because they have Lamar who's so hard to predict and defend and can also throw out of that formation and also beat you around the edge. And the way to counter that is to be stout up front, but really it's all about your linebackers, and missing those guys in that defense made a huge difference for them, which then in turn makes the Ravens offensive line look that much better when they get to second level and they're able to get to guys that are replacing those usual starters for the Bills. So not going to be as lopsided, I think, on a week-to-week basis, but this is going to be one of the hardest teams to defend out of that formation specifically because they can go in so many different directions. And it all starts with Lamar Jackson, and right after him, it's Derrick Henry.
Right. So the Lamar's rushing touchdown was such a cool play where the line's going one way and the guards are going the other, and
you
Lamar,
got 2 guys going out right.
It's just so much for defenses to deal with. You want to settle down all these blitz packages people are sending your way, and the Bills are not a heavy blitz team anyways, but this is what you do. And yeah, I mentioned they had 22 plays under center, 9 out of pistol. That's out of 54 plays, so way over 50%. The pistol plays, 78% success rate, had 2 touchdowns out of it, not just the Henry play, just really cool stuff out of them. And they're using heavy formations. I looked, they barely ever had 3 receivers on the field tonight. So it's 2 full, it's Ricard and a running back, almost, 2/3 of the play, and it's 2 tight ends on a lot of the plays. Some plays they don't have any receivers on the field, but it's crazy that a lot of these plays they have 1 receiver on the field, and yeah, they even went heavy. And I want to give their defense some love. Josh Allen was pressured on 15 of his 34 dropbacks. I don't think he was terrible tonight. He ends up 16 for 29, 180 yards. There was just a couple nice plays by the Ravens that got them off the field. One time, McDermott didn't decide to go for it on a 4th and 1. It was at his own 39, but they were already down 14-3 at the time. But it's because they were giving up some penetration. Travis Jones had some plays. David Ajabo had a play. And yeah, Josh Allen took some sacks. He's not used to taking a lot of sacks, got hit quite a bit. So a really encouraging game by the Ravens defense too.
Yeah, the penetration was overwhelming in the second half, because what essentially happened for the Bills in the final 2 quarters was Josh Allen got away from the rush one time and made a heroic throw down the sideline for a long completion. And that was it. Every other time that they faced a third down where they knew he had to throw, they would just send the house. And a number of different guys were getting pressure. At one point, Odafe Owe got there and forced him out to the right. And you just see Josh surrounded by like 3 Ravens who are closing in on him. And he's trying to stiff arm one away and 2 more come in to clean it up. And he's just got nowhere to go. And you could see the frustration on him on the sideline. They tried to run a trick play to keep the Ravens off balance. Didn't work out. Turns out into a fumble. Josh gets blasted. Like everything just snowballed into a nightmarish evening for them. And you know what, Greg? It's crazy because you look at the Bills where they were a week ago. We did this on Monday night. They dominate the Jaguars. They're 3-0. We're talking about how Josh is the best player in the league. But you said something that totally came to fruition tonight. They're going to get tested, and they're probably going to lose before long, and it's probably coming up this week. And we saw it play out exactly as you thought it would.
Yeah, I had the Ravens winning this game. Never, that it was a coin flip, and never would have thought it would have been like this. But the Bills have won this year by protecting Allen well, didn't play as well tonight, and really being able to control the game on the ground. It's not like they ran the ball poorly. They just had a couple short yardage ones early, and their defense really lost them the game. The matchup that was really the key for me was the Ravens offense in this running game, which is one of the stories of this young NFL season. Took a game or two to really get going, but Derrick Henry, very cool to see him just in the open field and busting tackles, making people miss, like swerving and really looking young. And it really reminds me of those players that get in a second spot, and that's kind of what puts their Hall of Fame candidacy over the top. I think of Kurt Warner in Arizona. And if Derrick Henry even has this like one magical year here in Baltimore, even if it was just that one, and who knows, like that could be enough that puts him over the top. And it's just cool seeing a couple of the greatest players in our game, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, joining forces. The rest of the league is going to have to deal with that. And the Bills, they'll be back. They'll be fine. It's 3-1.
Yeah,
they're a little light and tough matchup for them. I heard John Harbaugh say after the game when he shook hands with McDermott, he's like, hope we see you again. And I was thinking, like, yeah, I'll bet you hope you see him again. Like, that would be better than seeing the Chiefs again. Like, you feel like you could handle this team.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather run into the team I just obliterated at home on Sunday Night Football than the team I can't get past. Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about the tone of voice. He said it in a nice tone of voice. If he had said it in a very smarmy, sarcastic tone of voice, that would have been like, I hope we do see you again in the playoffs. We'll see. Long way to go. Fun week 4, fun game in Baltimore. Not as close as we wanted, but good enough. We will be back. Shook Nick at Night continues. It's been renewed for a 4th week here. Monday Night Football. We got the doubleheader. Seahawks against the Lions. That's capping the night. We got the Titans and the Dolphins is kind of the undercard. It's a boxing feel. You got the warm up and you got the big show. It'll be a lot of fun. Join Nick and I. Check that out after Monday Night Football. We'll see you then. The Ravens are running. You know football is back.